I live in Los Angeles, California, and I am 54 years old. I've been a technology leader for 30 years. My first job was at IBM, and I've been with Accenture for a long time. I've worked for Accenture for a long time. At the time, I had a lot of money put in XRP, and I had also worked for FIS. Some of you may know that FAS is the biggest payment source, but I no longer work there. I'm now working at a software company that I'll keep secret for now. There are a lot of past payments. But Bob and I talked about this when I was at Accenture, and it's one of the reasons I don't have to hire as many people now. But I did find out that Accenture, like all companies, has a sales team called kwon. kwon is a CRM, customer relationship management, software. As an IT investor, I was able to look at it when everyone else thought, oh, Ripple's not working with those banks. At the time, Brad Garlandhouse said, we're adding 2 new banks every week, and I could look at Salesforce come to see how a small company like Ripple runs its business. Whose staff was only about 50 to 100 at the time. How are these banks going to work together? Because that will take a lot of work in 3 to 6 months. Accenture and IBM are the 2 biggest technology developers in the world, which is why they were able to get them up and running so quickly. You can use them to build any of the newest and most cutting-edge apps. Because of this, Accenture joined Ripple as a partner. I also looked at our sales team. I could also see all 300 banks that Accenture had set up to work with Ripple. Now that I was better, I was happily happy. Big names are being talked about here. It was the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada, the Bank of Australia, and so on. Because of this, they are all prepped and ready to go. It was around 2016 since this was 2000 BABA. I told you about that. I think it was in the year 2000. Yes, somewhere in there. Since I could see them all, I know they're all set and ready to go. You've heard Mr. Schwarz talk about how you've been affected by the cycle. For this to work, you need cash on both ends. I'm not able to talk about a flip the switch moment. I'm not going to act like I know what's going on, but I can see it. That something will happen at some point, and I'll start to use it. And I bought it in an instant. Yes, I know, and who has the power to tell you to leave? Your guess is just as good as mine. It could be the infrared, though. That's the world, business, and everything. But Bob, isn't that just us talking about it? Did you expect to hear that from me? Yes, because the last time we talked, I remember you jumping on the spot. You say, "Hi, my name is Tony." And you pretty much just said, "I kind of believe in a flip of the switch moment." And you weren't always talking about like I know. It sounds like you think I can understand why this would all happen at once. I'm sure I could. I agree with that theory because it seems like a likely outcome. From the start, Ripple has worked with government officials. Additionally, we have worked with controlled organizations like banks where the rules are clear. We've learned that one reason XRP has done so well is that people know, hey, wait a minute, back to your original question, is XRP the next Bitcoin? I think your question is, will XRP replace Bitcoin? There's a lot of value to be made in the ZERP IPI petition if we work with the system to solve this huge problem, one that is measured in trillions of dollars. This is because it takes money to get there. We don't think you will need this pre-funding in the future. You can also use a digital asset to have instant access to cash around the world. Open source technology is being used to build a tech stack right now. A bunch of techies who saw some problems with Bitcoin and wanted to make something better called XRP came up with it. Bitcoin is now very slow and costs a lot per transaction. XRP, on the other hand, is very fast, about 1,000 times faster and 1,000 times cheaper per transaction. When it comes to correspondent banking, the second thing that's important to note is that some of these exotic currencies and routes have been left to stand on their own. And the easy availability of digital goods can be used to make the playing field more level and open to everyone. Ripple's original plan was to use these technologies in the same way that TCP/IP, HTTP, and HTI are used to make the Internet of Information work. With these blockchain technologies, we can connect gadgets and information and make payments. This is called the Internet of Value. As Norman says, it's one thing to move $100 million for a big company and something else to move $100,000 for a small business. Anyone working as a freelancer or in the Philippines doing design work for a company in London and wants to be paid $30 or 30 Philippine pesos, that's not an easy process to make happen. In fact, the companies that let freelancers do that make them set up an account, and they don't pay out until the account has around 1,000 UCE in it. A question from the people. What do you want the XRP system to become in the end? That could take years because innovations are still being worked on. How do you reach the end goal? And I know that's a tough question. Yes, I can tell you that I had this very early on. That's all I can say. I still think this is the right way to think about it, which is as pools of liquidity that everyone can add to and draw from. I've said this many times in the last 8 years. In other words, I mean that we will have more than one currency for a very long time. In the end, there is no state where we are not at least multi-asset, even if Bitcoin takes over the world. Who knows, maybe not. There will always be people who want to own shares in the real estate investment trust in the Seychelles Islands, even if Bitcoin takes over the world. Some people might not want to keep Bitcoin that way all the time, but they will have to because they will need cash. There is no possible world in which we won't need liquidity and exchanges of multiple assets. I learned that both cash and assets are stuck by looking into the payment area. This is a problem that I think is worth many trillions of dollars. It seems like I've been trying to solve this problem for about 10 years now. So if I want to move or trade asset A for asset B, I might have to pay money and put money into it. Getting a loan, paying back a loan, or any other kind of loan, the idea of trading one thing for another can cover a lot of different areas of finance. The idea is that the money to pay for it would come from public pools, which could have 5 or 6 different people in them. This means that if you have an object, like an apple, and a bunch of US dollars in Ireland, that's where they arrived. Have fun. There are people in Ireland who need US dollars and might be willing to pay for them. For some reason, you might want to have euros somewhere. It's possible that you like the idea of public pools where everyone can give to or draw from and use equally. Then, I think the other part is XRP, which acts as a kind of last resort liquidity. Quote and unquote. But I think the long tail is huge, just like in the tokenized world. There will be a lot of us who trade euros, then. Another thing that is still unknown is whether or not a digital object can compete in that space. Some of them aren't, but most of them are.